This is Ray Balzer with AimPro Billiards. I want to talk about center-to-edge aiming. This is the common name for a number of related aiming systems. Aim, for example, at the edge of the object ball with some offset on the cue ball. Then pivot until lined up with the center of the cue ball and shoot along that line. I want to use a generic name. There are several to choose from. We'll use offset and pivot. The methods vary by which object ball targets are used, how much offset, how and where the pivot is executed, and your vision or sighting. Note, this video will not be teaching how to do offset and pivot aiming. You need to pick your system and know its mechanics already. Rather, I will propose a new way to position your practice shots and then practice and validate your offset and pivot before you even shoot. First, a note about this video. It was made during the coronavirus scare when things were shut down. I had no access to a pool table. I had to improvise, so I'll use illustrations and previously captured videos and photos. Offset and pivot aiming is a fascinating method that really has grabbed people's attention. There's mystery and promise, and it's evolving. You might not have heard of every expansion or interpretation that I refer to here, but that's part of the mystery, and it makes it even more interesting. Simply put, offset and pivot aiming promises a way to get perfectly aligned for a center ball hit that will pocket the object ball using objective methods. But offset and pivot aiming is controversial. There's no proof that it should work, yet it seems to. I'm going to suggest using the AimRight training aid to support developing your aiming skill. That assertion is controversial. There is no proof, yet it seems to have promise. My claim is that the AimRight training aid can supercharge your offset and pivoting, aiming and shooting practice. Let me make the case, and you decide. To learn and master pull aiming, you have to practice it. The AimRight is a practice tool for pull aiming and shooting, position play, and more. It is designed to support virtually any aiming system. Now, because of the geometry of offset and pivot, shot setup is slightly more complicated than just setting the cut angle. The distance between the balls is also critical. So to practice offset and pivot aiming systems, you need to supplement the AimRight with a tape measure. You will set both cut angle and distance between balls. The AimRight is a simple tool for serious practice. It allows you to easily set up repeatable cut shots anywhere on the table. It has a set of 16 basic angles that are evenly spaced targets that are enough to cover all needed shots for the average player. Optionally, they can be extended to 32 cut angles for expert players on championship-level tight pockets or other high-accuracy shots, such as table-length ones or combinations and mini banks. The AimRight can be left on the table and shot over, and then its built-in aiming aids will help you. More on that later. To fully learn an aiming system, you must have a reliable stroke. If you already do, skip ahead to about 6:45. Otherwise, I'll explain how the AimRight can help. To effectively learn an aiming system, a reliable stance and stroke are key. If you miss a shot when you're learning an aiming system, you want it to be because of an aiming problem, because that's what you're working on. If you're not sure if you aimed wrong, or if your stance and stroke failed, you'll just be confused and frustrated. We at AimPro Billiards believe that you build a solid stroke in stages, and the AimRight is there to help. The first step is to just work on 2 shots, straight in and a 30-degree cut, which is easy to aim. Don't yet try to develop your offset and pivot. Just line up the exact known 30-degree cut by directly aiming the center of the cue ball at the outside edge of the object ball. You can use the AimRight aim line to help guide you, and shoot both cuts to the left and to the right. There are 2 AimRights, one for each cut direction. And this helps ensure your vision and arm are properly aligned without swerving. Shoot at 2 speeds, soft and hard, or more precisely, soft with a short stroke and hard with a full stroke. The short stroke shot helps make sure your fundamental alignment is good. The full hard stroke is to make sure your fundamentals don't break down. Start with easy distances and increase them with skill. Then add topspin and draw and maintain form. When you can make 4 of 5 consistently with at least 2 feet between balls and pocket, you are finally ready to add in more cut angles. This process, and there's more, is described in the AimRight Overview video and in the AimRight User's Guide. This point, when you add in more cut angles, is when you are ready to start working on your offset and pivot method. Let's start practicing your offsets and pivots for different shots. To learn best, you need to start with recommended shots that are exact and known, with specific offsets, targets, and pivots. We'll begin with the quarter ball, half ball, and 3/4 ball hits. Let's start practicing with the 30-degree cut, because it corresponds with the shot you've already mastered with the AimRight stroke practice previously described. Use the AimRight to set up a ball location that's close enough to the pocket that you should be able to make it consistently, at least 4 out of 5. And then use the AimRight to find the 30-degree cut line, and use your tape measure to start with the cue ball more than 2 feet, so let's say 3 feet, from the object ball. Place a donut there to make it very fast and easy to repeat the shot. Now practice your setup, offset, and pivot. But don't shoot just yet. Do your pivot and then check your alignment against the AimRight. It provides the aim line, 30-degree line in this case, as well as the center of the ghost ball marker. You should be aligned with them. There could be a perceptual issue here. Let's discuss it. While your cue stick should be centered on the cue ball and the shot line, it's possible your vision is not, depending on your system. If not, I suggest you change your vision alignment to be over the cue stick, looking down the shot line to confirm your alignment with the AimRight. I'm only suggesting this change during the dry practice. So what do you do if it's not working? That is, not aligning. Here's a new approach to learning the pivoting setup. Work backwards. Start aligned to the AimRight target, and then pivot in reverse until aimed at the object ball reference point used for your system, and check the Q-tip offset. Perhaps learn this offset, or consider trying a different pivot distance. Pivoting can be done with respect to your bridge or elsewhere. It can be done in the air while bending down to the shot. Continue to practice and adjust your setup until you're aligning properly. So consider what this means. You can learn offset and pivot without shooting, without even needing a pool table. Just an AimRight and 2 balls and a large enough table to get the distance you need. It also means that you could learn to develop your own version of offset and pivot. This is simply amazing. It allows you to learn at an accelerated rate. Now you can start shooting. After making some progress, switch the ball setup so you are now cutting the other direction at the same distance and practice that shot. Now let's do the quarter ball hit, which is a 14.5-degree cut angle. Again, use your tape measure and set up a distance, say 3 feet, from cue ball to object ball. Use the AimRight aim line and ghost ball center mark to confirm your alignment. Continue this dry practice along with a reverse pivot and adjust as needed. When your setup becomes reliable, begin shooting. Do cuts in both directions. Now let's do the quarter ball hit, which is the 48.6-degree cut angle. As before, use the AimRight to confirm your alignment and do reverse pivots if needed to help adjust your offset and/or pivot point. When you've got it down, start shooting. Do cuts in both directions with the same cut angle and distance. After these 3 basic shots, you might want to try the thin hit of 1/8 ball hit or 61-degree cut. Again, do both directions and make sure to avoid arm swerving. Now try straight-in shots using an offset and pivot. Now you need to develop skill with different distances between the cue ball and the object ball. In theory, pivot system setup must consider the distance between balls and the pivot point. Some claim that with correct sighting when standing and by pivoting in the air, that there's more flexibility. You should confirm this by shooting with different distances between the balls. Start over with the basic cuts. Now you need to vary the cue ball to object ball distance. Specifically, you need to bring the cue ball closer in stages. As I understand it, you should practice at these distances. Over 2 feet, well, we've already done that. Next, 2 feet, 1 foot, 6 inches, and very close, let's say 3 inches. Use a measuring tape to do these distances accurately and set up a donut at the first 3 locations. You will see that the AimRight makes it easy to be on the correct line when only inches away. Just put the cue ball down centered on the degree line. Basic geometry suggests that you need to modify your setup for each of these distances. One way is to shorten your bridge length. Work at it until you get consistent. You should also separate the balls by more than the 3 feet you practiced at and confirm that works as well. Practice in different table positions. The pool table can interfere with your pivoting, especially if the cue ball is on the rail or far away and forces a different bridge length. Or worse, that you have to use the mechanical bridge, or the table just gets in the way with your stance or footwork. So, you need to practice with the cue ball in different table positions, shooting in various directions. Therefore, you need an ability to set up known cut shots in a variety of locations. The AimRight, along with a tape measure, excels at this. Just move the AimRight to a different table location and align it to the intended pocket and secure it with a few donuts. Then mark your cue ball location based on the AimRight angle lines and use a tape measure to set the distance between balls, and then you're ready to practice. When you move the AimRight to the next location, you will be able to reuse those same donuts to secure the AimRight to the table. Now let's do all the cuts. You should extend your practice to all 16 basic AimRight cut angles. Perhaps this is surprising to you, but 16 cut angles are the minimum number to play decently, so your aiming system must support this. Now, this will be a challenge because you must learn to subtly change your setup to create the required offset needed from the base positions. Little Chris has suggested that you do this analytically by knowing, that is, accurately estimating the cut angle, and then offset your starting Q-tip position based on this knowledge. If you pursue this analytical approach, I suggest you watch my multi-part video series called AimRight, What's That Cut Angle? Dr. Dave suggests several options for how to make the needed adjustments, including by unconscious feel. Or you can use the AimRight to check your alignment and use reverse pivoting to check the required offset for your pivot distance. You should pay special attention to the switchover from one object ball target, for example the edge or the 1/8 or quarter or center ball, to the next. For example, the 22-degree cut angle is halfway between the 3/4 ball and half ball. Do you use the 3/4 ball target, the half ball target, or will either work? Or does it depend on what the distance is between balls? Never mind what they claim. Test it. If you want expert level precision, then advance to all 32 AimRight angles by adding in the 16 in-between angles. To practice these, you should have the object ball at least 4 feet from the target pocket or shim the pocket. You may need to consider cut-induced throw. For more guidance about offset and pivot aiming, I suggest you start with Dr. Dave's webpage. After you are good at shooting when knowing the exact cut angle, it's time to wean yourself off of the AimRight and shoot practice shots without it. By the way, the AimRight supports position play as well by helping you accurately estimate the expected cue ball path after the shot, both angle and distance. So consult the user's guide and learn to improve your position skill basics. So let's summarize the potential benefits to you of using an AimRight while learning your offset and pivot aiming method. First, you can reliably set up repeatable shots in conjunction with a tape measure. Second, you can learn position play basics for where the cue ball will go with each cut angle and with stun, follow, and draw. Third, you can put your aiming system to the test by accurately setting up practice shots at 16 different cut angles, the minimum for competent play, or even 32 for expert level play. And you can do that anywhere on the table. 4. You can further test your aiming system by setting up balls at various distances with your tape measure, because pivot-based aiming systems can be challenged by varying distances. The AimRight wonderfully supports accurate setup even at very close ball spacing. 5. You can get the feedback needed to develop a reliable stroke, since you can shoot known shots with known aims and identify any weakness in your mechanics. 6. 2 AimRights allow equal practice in both cut directions, essential since it's easy to lack symmetry in arm motion and sighting. 7. You can do dry practice with its many benefits using the AimRight angle lines and ghost ball center target. 8. If struggling with alignment, the AimRight will support you by a unique diagnostic process. Start with shot alignment, which the AimRight makes easy, and then do a reverse pivot to try to optimize offset and pivot points. 9. Remember that the AimRight supports any aiming system, so it will be there to help you in the future, whatever path you take. Okay, so I've made my case for why the AimRight plus a tape measure can supercharge your offset and pivot practice. If I've convinced you, get an AimRight and a tape measure too. Email me or buy from an online supplier, such as Cyberts. Thanks for watching.